In this video, I will be attempting to explain a diplomacy variant called Diplomacy Extreme, a variant that takes rules from 23 other variants and combines them into one single game. The first variant is one that many people are already familiar with, and that is Chaos, where instead of each player playing one of the 7 standard countries in World War I, they play a single supply center on the classic map. This means instead of France being 1 power, it is split into 3 powers containing Brest, Paris, and Marseille. There's also Fog of War, where players are only able to see the tiles around their units and cannot see the entire board. Players are also only able to talk to players they see with the exception of a public press channel. This means Serbia can only talk to Trieste, Budapest, Bulgaria, Romania, and Greece, and cannot see anywhere other than those 5 centers in Albania. In this game, there's also Seismic, where every player can change one of the borders on a classic map every single movement turn. This means after a few years, the classic map will not even be recognizable. There's one last rule I need to talk about before going on to all the different unit types in this game, and that is investment diplomacy, where instead of each supply center granting you 1 build, every 4 building blocks will grant you 1 build. The supply center starts with 4 building blocks in it, and you can add more to it if you do not build all the units you can this turn. Every time you take a supply center, half of the units will be destroyed during conflict. Now, the first 2 units most people are already familiar with because they are from the normal diplomacy game, and as armies and fleets. Armies are able to watch on land, fleets are able to watch on coastal tiles and sea tiles. Militias are the same as armies, except they have only half the strength and can be built with 2 building blocks instead of 4. This means if a militia in Picardy were to bounce in Belgium with an army in Ruhr, the army in Ruhr would get into Belgium. However, if an army in Burgundy were to support the militia in Picardy, the militia in Picardy would get into Belgium. On the opposite side of things, there are Juggernauts, which are the same as armies except they have double the strength and can be built with 8 building blocks instead of 4. This means if a Juggernaut in Bulgaria were to bounce to Constantinople with an army in Smyrna, the Juggernaut in Bulgaria would get in. But instead of an army in Ankara supported the army in Smyrna, they would bounce and nobody would get into Constantinople that turn. The next unit type is artilleries, like armies and fleets that are built with 4 building blocks. Although they have a hold and movement strength of 0, they can support from 2 tiles away instead of the usual 1. For example, if 2 armies in Munich and Warsaw were to bounce in Silesia, but an artillery in Vienna supports Munich into Silesia, the army in Munich would get into Silesia and bounce Warsaw out. Trains are the only unit that can share a tile with another unit. They cost 4 building blocks and have the same strength as an army or a fleet. However, trains are limited by movement to only being able to move across railroads. This means a train in St. Petersburg can only move to Livonia in Norway and cannot move to Finland or Moscow. Castles are the only unit that cannot move. They have a hold strength of 1.5 and are able to see twice as far as any other unit for Fog of War. This means the castle in Venice can see all the way from Naples to Munich or Marseille to Serbia. This means they can also talk to any of those countries as well. Instead of building a unit, players are able to summon a Pokemon. Pokemon cost 4 building blocks and have the same strength of an army or a fleet. If a Pokemon attacks a unit they are effective against, they do double the amount of damage, and if a Pokemon attacks a unit they are not very effective against, they do half the amount of damage. For example, if a Charmander in Gascony were to tap Bulbasaur in Piedmont, the Charmander would have 2 strengths instead of the usual 1. Some Pokemon can also have multiple types. There are 3 different win conditions in Diplomacy Extreme. Players that win in 2 of the conditions will place higher than those that win in 1, but place lower than those that win in all 3. If multiple people share the same number of win conditions, whoever has a higher center count places higher. The first win condition is Diplomacy on the Clock Tower, based off of the Social Dutch and Gameplay on the Clock Tower. There's 1 demon, 6 minions, 5 outsiders, and 22 townsfolk. The demons and minions are on the evil team, and the outsiders and townsfolk are on the good team. In order for the good team to win, the demon has to die. In order for the evil team to win, the demon has to stay alive to 1910. Secret Dipler, there are 7 fascists, 5 pirates, and 22 liberals. The liberals win if all the fascists are dead, and the fascists win if they control half of Europe. Pirates are able to be recruited by either team. One condition is goals. At the end of 1901, players choose 3 centers they will try to control at the end of the game. These centers must be at least 2 moves away, and if they are exactly 2 moves away, it will be revealed that that player has the center as their goal. In routes, each center on the class map provides a holder with a route that has a special ability. These can range from draining extra stamp to control and expanding other units. Expansion, at the end of every movement turn, a random tile is added on the edge of the board. Scorched Earth, players are able to have their units, instead of holding or moving, destroy the center they are currently in. This would turn the center tile into a non-center tile. Revival, players are able to revive their countries. If a unit is holding a revive token, they can use it to change ownership of the tile they are currently on to its original holder at the start of the game. Switzerland is no longer an impassable zone. It contains 2 supply centers and 8 building blocks. However, there is a 33% chance that a unit inside of Switzerland will be disbanded that turn. In conversion, players are able to change their units to other units on their turn, as long as the unit they are changing into costs equal to or less building blocks than the unit they currently are. This means a Juggernaut can change into an army, but an army cannot change into a Juggernaut. In control territory, as long as the player controls all the land tiles around center, they are able to build in that center. This means if a player controls Serbia, Bulgaria, and Albania, they are able to build in Greece. In mind control, each movement turn, a random player controls 2 other units they do not own. However, they do not gain vision for Fog of War. Was a brief explanation over all the rules. Here's a lot of stuff I did not go over. If you have any questions or would like to know more about the variant, you can join the Discord below, and I hope to see you in the game.